I'm Teresa Martin from Lower Cape TV, and welcome to Legislative Update with State Senator Julian Cyr and State Rep Sarah Peake.
Great to be with you.
Good to be with you,
Good to
Teresa.
see you here. We're into 2018. Amazing, huh?
Where'd that time go?
Hey, I wanted to start off by talking about something a little bit fun. I hear that you were emceeing kind of an interesting event recently.
Yes, a couple of weeks ago, it was the, I guess you'd say, second annual Women's March. And this year, instead of going up to Boston and being one of 100,000 people in the crowd, some community organizers right here on the Cape, women from Harwich and Falmouth and Barnstable, organized it. There were about 1,000 people that gathered on the Barnstable Village Green.
Wow.
There were a series of people who spoke, including our very own Senator Cyr, so it was women and men who spoke.
Well, women and just a few good men.
A few
I
good men.
I was very
Yes.
honored to speak. I was sure to be very brief
Yeah.
in my remarks as well.
But we had the cream of the crop for men, and it was great. And I got to MC the event, which means
Wow.
I got to make some rallying opening remarks and then introduce each of these people as they came up to speak. Senator Elizabeth Warren was unable to attend, but actually for me, the night before was kind of cool because suddenly my phone rings and it's the state director for Senator Elizabeth Warren's office. I understand you're emceeing. We want to get you remarks from her. Okay, great. And then I text somebody in Senator Markey's office, and we got remarks from him. And then I called up Mike Jackman from Congressman Keating's office. Oh, we'll get you remarks. So I got to sort of channel our three big federal elected officials and read their, of course, very inspiring and spot-on remarks. But what was great about the day is about 1,000 people there.
No, the crowd projections were
Yes,
2,000.
were 2,000.
From the Barnstable
Really?
police. Yeah,
Wow.
I
Well,
couldn't believe it.
Well, if the police say that's even better. So, on this weekend day here on Little Cape Cod, we had a couple of thousand people there.
It was incredible.
Excitement, rally, commitment to to great things like increased voter enrollment, voter participation, the number of signs that say vote in 2018, and all of that was spectacular. And I think ranged in age literally from infants that some people were carrying in little papooses on them, to folks who came with those kind of walkers that have the seat attached so that they'd have a place to sit. And there were accommodations for everybody. And I know I found it exciting. Julian, I'm sure you did too.
It was so powerful. And it's so cool to see, so many folks wanting to be engaged in our public life.
Yeah.
So many folks that are starting to run for local office. There's a candidate training the next weekend, and I popped by to say hi, and there's like 30 or 35 people there, and I didn't know half the people in the room. And you tend to get to know most of the activists, and it's just I think that's an exciting. That gives me a lot of hope. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, engaging is what makes a difference.
That's right.
It really
Yeah.
does. It's when you sit back and check out that bad things happen.
Well, I think people are fully engaged, and I'm just going to make a pitch. If people aren't registered to vote, to go out and register to vote. We're working on getting a bill passed, automatic voter registration.
I was going to ask, because you've got an event coming up around that too, right?
Yes, that's right. So I got asked, it seems to be, I'm the panel participant, first the Women's March, and now with this. There's a panel that's being sponsored by organizations, one of whom is the League of Women Voters, and the subject is automatic voter registration. So there's a bill pending in the State House. It's been moved out, I believe, of the Election Laws Committee with a favorable recommendation. And what it basically calls for is if you have contact with either the Registry of Motor Vehicles or Mass Health, those are two agencies where you gather people's name and address, you will automatically be enrolled on the voter rolls for your community. And actually, it's great because it will get more people enrolled to vote, but it's also good because in states that have done it, and there's 20 some odd, I think, or almost 20 that have automatic voter registration, what they've found is it actually kind of cleans up the voter rolls. Because sometimes people move from one community to another and they'll go get their driver's license changed, but they forget to go into their new town hall and register to vote. So they may still be on the rolls in their former community, but not in their present community. But that act of going in to update your driver's license, that would be enough to change your voter registration to where your new hometown is. So it's good for the process as well as good for the citizens of the Commonwealth to know that they are registered to vote. And of course, if somebody doesn't have a driver's license or they're not a Mass Health participant, you can go in and register to vote the old-fashioned way. Go see your town clerk. It takes about 5 minutes, and boom, you're fully registered.
That's awesome. Okay, so back to daily reality at the
Yes.
State House. I'm going to revisit something that we have talked about, I think, every single time we've talked, because it is such an enormous and important issue, and that's healthcare.
Yep.
And I know there have been some things happening around healthcare. Can you share a little more about that?
Well, I think healthcare is always on the agenda. One, because it's just so important. It's so important to how folks, live their lives and the health of our communities. But also, too, that this is just a real big budget buster.
Yeah.
Yes, for the state, but yes, for families and for businesses. Out here on the Cape and across the Commonwealth. The thing we've been focusing on most recently is if you look at the insurance options that are offered and the insurance that's accepted here of the publicly subsidized insurance. So specifically, we're talking about the connector care insurance, but also insurance through Mass Health. There's been a concern that those offerings have been dwindling, particularly on the Lower and Outer Cape, and also on the islands. And so Sarah and I actually earlier this week met with Secretary Mary Lou Sutters, who's the Secretary of Health and Human Services, quite a number of agencies under her, and she's really the sort of point and expert on health insurance issues, and really having a conversation about how do we make sure that people who live in further flung places like we here are on the Lower Cape, on the islands, how do we make sure that they have access to health insurance and their health insurance is accepted with all of our providers? And that's something that we've been concerned about and working on.
Right, at any number of levels. You may have read in the paper recently that the GIC, which is anybody who's a state employee has their insurance through the GIC plan, they had reduced the number of insurance plans you could choose among from 5, I believe it was, to 2. And of those 2, only one has providers on the Cape and Islands, and that's Unicare.
I didn't know that.
That's right. So Julian and I arranged to make sure that the GIC had a hearing on the Cape, which they had no plans
Begrudgingly,
to do. Sometimes
Oh, that pesky Cape.
sometimes state agencies think that New Bedford is on Cape Cod or that Plymouth is on Cape Cod, and it's not exactly. So we were at the Hyannis Youth and Rec Center. Unfortunately, it was a room that could fit about 30, and there were over 100 people who were there. But the long and short of it is, because of the public outcry, and I'd like to think a little pushback from legislators, including the senator and myself, the GIC board met last week and reconsidered the previous vote, and all of the insurance providers that have offered plans to GIC members through the years will continue to for at least the next fiscal year. So that's one instance of a narrowing of plans. And really, what brought us to the meeting with Secretary Sutters was I started hearing from constituents of mine, mostly providers, interestingly, mostly in the mental health field, saying, my connector healthcare patients have come to see me, but they have been dropped by their plan. I think many of them were with Neighborhood Health Plan, who was pulled out of the Cape, and I don't accept any of the other insurance plans that the connector offers, and virtually nobody does on the Cape. So then you had this big gap in coverage for people, and you had providers scrambling to kind of get signed up with and registered with the connector health providers such as they existed. So Julian actually got a hold of this first, and that's what got Secretary Sutters to us. And it was a great afternoon, a lot of brainstorming, and not just about what the health plans might be, but things like on the provider side of stuff, to have like a uniform criteria for, let's say, providers in the mental health area, so that if you want to accept Harvard Pilgrim, or you want to accept the Neighborhood Health Plan, or you want to accept Unicare, or you want to accept Tufts, or whatever it might be, so long as you meet this criteria, you shouldn't have to re-enroll and meet different standards for each insurance company. There should be a standardized standard across, so that if you're a certified social worker, a psychotherapist, a psychologist, whatever it might be, you meet those standards, and then if you want to accept those other health insurance plans, you're all set because you've met the standard
It just
group.
seems like common sense
It does seem
from
like common
everyone's
sense. Exactly.
That's
I mean,
So we reached out to her thinking we were giving her a laundry list of things to do. And when we left, I know I had a list of things to do. So I don't
Wait a
know. I don't know how
second.
she turned the tables on us, but at any rate.
Another thing we talked about too is the cost of doing business, of providing health care. You know, when you're in these smaller communities, you know, is more expensive. You know, that's certainly the case. I represent Martha's Vineyard and Nantucket,
Right.
and the Outer Cape and the Lower Cape is very similar to those islands in our
right.
geographic isolation. You know, but that's not necessarily reflected in advantageous reimbursement or monies that are going to support the you know, the nursing home that we have in Provincetown.
Right.
And those are some of the issues that we're really trying to sink our teeth into. You know, because we know that healthcare costs are just really significant. I mean, I see this in my own family, and just how much this is, and you know, I think we can do better, and we're trying to do better.
yeah.
Right.
So in other parts of the world, we have seasons that are called like spring, summer, fall,
That's
winter,
right.
In legislative land, we have seasons called like bond season and budget season.
That's exactly right.
And I know that we're deep in bond season right now. Is there anything you can share about that?
Yeah, so the House just took up, and the Senate will be taking it up shortly, I'm looking at my cheat sheet here, a $1.7 billion bond bill. So we authorize bonding authority, and it's for a 5-year period. That gives the state authorization to borrow up to, in this case, $1.7 billion. They may not use up all of that authorization, but it offers us the opportunity to put some priorities into the bill for us. So actually, I was driving up to the State House the morning that we were taking up, or the day before we were going to take up the bond bill, and my phone rings, and it's Jay Coburn, who's the CEO of the Lower Cape Community Development Partnership, the CDP, and he said, we were hoping to see, coming out of the governor's office, language authorizing a certain amount of the Community Investment Tax Credit Program, the CITC tax credit program. And what that tax credit program is, you could kind of look at it as a public-private partnership. The state offers tax credits to people who make basically a charitable donation to a community development corporation like the CDP, and that donor gets 50 cents back on their dollar. So it is a great incentive for people to donate. And just to give you some idea, Jay told me that the CDP last year raised about $340,000 through the tax credit program.
Wow.
But we needed to reauthorize the cap on those tax credits because they're not limitless. The state can't afford to just write a check to everybody. So we were able to get language in the bond bill on the housing side that establishes the cap now at $6 million. 2 years it goes up to 8, 2 years to 10, 12, and capping out in 2025 at $12 million of tax credits by 2025. So that's not just to help us here on the Cape, but here on the Cape Housing Assistance Corp is a CDC. They benefit from this. And then there's CDCs that are located all across the Commonwealth in both urban and in rural areas. And this is a great tool they have been able to use to raise money to support their programs, whether that's affordable housing programs or economic development programs.
I heard something about bike stuff was in there.
Yes.
So we got another bond bill, which is a capital bill that has passed through the House and is going to be coming over to the Senate. On the House side, I'm hopeful that we can do what you folks did. $41 million for a new science building at Cape Cod Community College, which is desperately needed. And then some of the things I'm hoping to get done, we're going to be taking it up next week, so I'm filing the amendments today, but related to some money, several $1 million to extend the bike path from Wellfleet through some more right-of-ways, and also look at funding for bike safety on that strip of land between Truro and Provincetown, and through Truro, which has been a real concern. Also trying to look at some ways to, there's this fabulous project that we've been able to help get off the ground in Truro, and North Truro, where the Cloverleaf is,
Yes.
And an affordable housing project. If they can get, if we can run the water line that runs into Provincetown along Shore Road, if we can get that to that site, we can build more units there, which is desperately needed. It's going to be affordable rental housing. Also putting in a few things for they need a new jail in Martha's Vineyard and some other things like that across the district. But I think it's exciting to, again, these are proposals,
Right.
starting the conversation, but at least making sure that they're getting in there.
So I just wanted to kind of plant the seeds out there. Healthcare
Right.
and budget we're going to keep coming back
Right.
and back.
And put on your list housing for the next
Yes.
topic.
Housing, okay.
Yes, because there's a couple of housing proposals out there, one from the administration. We've been working on some stuff, and hopefully maybe by next time or the time after, we'll have some concrete things to report.
Well, excellent. So budget, healthcare, and housing coming up next time. I'm Teresa Martin with Lower Cape TV, and thank you again, State Senator Julian Cyr and State Rep Sarah Peake. Could double that up there.
Yeah.
Once again, thank you very much for being here, and look forward to seeing you
Thank
next
you,
time.
Teresa.
It's our pleasure. Thank you.